Everyone, welcome back again to Spiritual Growth Tarot and Astrology. And as you can see, this will be your reading for your astrological transits. Well, not personally, but do my best. And we're going from April 16th through the 22nd. We will have the total solar eclipse come in, but I've done a separate video on that, so check that one out. Also, we're going to have Mercury go retrograde about midway through the sign of Taurus. So anyway, let me swap out cameras here and I'll be right back, bring you over my table. Okay, hold on. Okay, so I have highlighted the transits that will be lasting all week long. And the one that's standing out, because it goes even beyond, well, there's two actually that stand out, that will go beyond this week as well. It'll go for quite some time. And of course, it's Pluto squaring the nodes. It lasts until December 7th, which brings in struggles for power, struggles for the people, power issues basically, in our lives and in our personal lives and in the outer world. So the important thing with all week is noticing that it's not just Pluto squaring the north node here. I should have highlighted that in. And this is an approaching square, right? And the reason it's going to last until December 7th is because you can see Pluto's at 0 degrees Aquarius, and the north node is at, but the nodes go backwards, but then the north node is at 4 degrees Taurus. So it's going to become tighter and tighter orb, but I can't remember the exact date, but Pluto will, I think it's in June. Yeah, Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn. So there's this, this tension field working between, like I said, south node of the past, north node of the future. But this week, what's involved is the sun as well. Now, Eris, our point in the sky for the courageous feminine that just won't take any crap anymore, she's going to stay there for quite some time. I mean, like I said, it's about a 566-year transit to get, I can't remember, it's 556 or 566 to get all the way around the zodiac. So, in all my lifetime, she's been in Aries, but she's moving closer and closer to Taurus eventually. So anyway, we're talking in Aries, it's all about courage and asserting ourselves and moving forward. Even though we may move, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, we're still making progress. But this week, Jupiter is involved. Well, this will continue on as Jupiter moves closer to the north node as well. And of course, Jupiter brings in healing. It brings in aligning with things that bring more meaning into our lives. Jupiter helps us align with our ability to use divination systems, our ability to open up and explore whatever we want to invest in, and basically our belief system, right? So there's opportunities for growth and expansion and abundance, and also for excess and overdoing. So we have to be careful sometimes about pushing forward in ways that aren't kind and ways that aren't cognizant of, because we always want to embrace the polar opposite, and with Aries it's Libra, so we always want to be careful about the what our words are doing when we're connecting with other people, right? Because Libra is all about the connection to relationships. So, and Libra wants peace, wants fairness and equality. So if we're flying off the handle, making comments, or just treating people unfairly and unkindly, Jupiter can blow up in your face. That can happen. So we have to be careful, and be careful most of all about being impulsive. And that is especially true because Chiron's involved there with Jupiter. Jupiter's already crossed over Chiron So the healing opportunities are still happening, but it's a separating conjunction and will soon be out of orb there. But as you can see, Chiron is squaring Mars all week long. Mars in Cancer wants security, wants to go towards trusting your guts, wants to move towards creating a very safe emotional foundation and protecting yourself, and will connect with the past and your roots, your ancestry, your lineage, and you will be working through any issues of that sort. Cancer wants to be cared for the same way it cares for others. And we might bump up against, because of the square to Chiron, we might bump up against false beliefs like, oh, the universe doesn't really care. It's not a personal aspect of anything of consciousness or anything to think about. It's very impersonal. Well, there's the personal and the impersonal. The impersonal is Neptune in Pisces, or Neptune now in Pisces, its natural sign, holding space for us to all care about each other. And then the impersonal, that's the impersonal. The personal would be Venus, and Venus is in Gemini, so we're learning more and more about that. Now, today, Venus is squaring Saturn, and the moon is involved. So it's much more a serious influx of information and we're trying to see the big picture. And with the moon in Pisces, you notice how we ended, well, you guys get this early, so we're still in that point where even as I get this uploaded, you'll still be in that point where the moon is over here on the other side of Saturn, and it's getting more and more and more serious as to all things Pisces. Now, I don't need to name names and get into a bunch of political stuff that maybe you might not appreciate, but you can see on the news if we're having tons and tons of news dumps where some people are going to play the victim and act like it's a witch hunt, and other people are going to be making themselves famous, as in standing up for rights, and from there they could be seen as they maybe used to be martyrs, but now they're heroes. That is precisely Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces will bring in, because remember, Saturn always brings in lessons, always brings in very serious issues that can delay some things, that can deny some things, but then eventually, if you're working in the light and you're working in the truth, which is always to be aligned with the laws of love, and following your own personal truth, speaking up for yourself, what will happen eventually is that Saturn will help you master something. It will teach you lessons, and you will have a solid foundation. Hold on one second. And with this trine from the moon to Mars, there's such an opportunity for that coming through from the second you get this video or I get the video uploaded and you're watching it. It's been happening. It's, life is for you. Things are happening for your highest good. You just have to get in alignment with that. And as Saturn is also squaring Venus, there will be some serious considerations as to who you will listen to and who you will learn from and who you will engage with, because Venus, most of all, wants unity and union, right? She's a very relationship-oriented planet. She rules Taurus and Libra. So here we are in this place of massive amounts of information, and a lot of people are going to be lying, and a lot of people, or more people, will be telling the truth. It just depends on where you listen. So there will be decisions made when it comes to what you will listen to and what you will not. And that would be friends, relatives, news, things you read, however you take in information, because we can't make decisions or informed decisions without taking in information. So that's really important. Now, only today do we have, so these long-term transits that I've been talking about every week, they're lasting all week long. Mercury sextile Mars is all week long. So then again, taking in information that brings in safety, security, self-preservation, the values that you care most about, honoring your values, and then you move. There's opportunities to move in that direction. And it's all about family and women's reproductive rights and everything that we've been fighting for quite some time. And now for some reason or other we're having to fight again even harder because things are being taken away. So, but the fight continues, and we'll eventually get there. It's just going to take quite some time. And meanwhile, all the dirty politicians and people that want to control another person's body, those people are revealing themselves. And we will remember. But anyway, today, only Sunday today, we have this Venus trine Pluto. And so I feel like this is, well, we had it last week, right? But this is towards the end of it. Let me see, I still have my charts. Yeah, so here's today, and it's morning though, but later at 1 o'clock today, the moon, representing women, joins with Pluto, and you can see that double trine going down there to Venus, and I think if I check ahead, yeah, see, Pluto trine Venus is, with the moon joining up with Saturn exactly, was the way we're ending the week. So that's, this is women's reproductive rights. And again, learning about who is, well, we're learning different things. We have the DOJ that blocked part of the, mifepristone ban from the Texas judge. And so we're kind of... Long story short, when you get down into the details of it, we're essentially back to the year 2000, where now women must go to the doctor's offices and go in there to take the pills. And but it's even actually a little bit worse, because then it was they had up to 10 weeks. Now it's going to be 7 weeks of pregnancy. So eventually, I think this is most likely to go to the Supreme Court. So this is the end of that. So because you can see that Pluto's at 0 degree, Venus is at 6 degrees, so this is a separating trine. So this was that flow of energy with the power structures. So we're in for a battle there. And that is, of course, Pluto squaring the nodes, right? Because the women's reproductive rights are right here between Taurus and Scorpio. Scorpio is all about reproduction. Taurus is all about women. Let's see, what else for this Venus square to Saturn up here. This is only lasting through to Tuesday. And again, Saturn would be the government, rules, victimizing some people, and then Venus wanting unity and harmony, and especially to get out of duality and to think, because, in Gemini, to think in ways that where everyone's understood, everyone's heard, everyone can commit to the laws of love. But, some people in power, they don't want that. They want women to stay back in the dark ages and be used as property, right? Yeah, that's not going to work. So the battle continues. And let's see, what else? It's for the rest of the week. Oh, I didn't mention it. The second most important besides Pluto squaring the nodes is this Saturn sextile the North Node. And as the week moves on, it will involve the sun, because the sun's getting closer and closer to the north node as well. So, but for now, for all week, Saturn with a sextile to the north node brings an opportunity to move forward in a way that brings in safety and self-preservation and things that we value. And then with the trine to the south node, we know what it was like in the past, and we know that it's not safe for women to not have access to all forms of birth control and not have access to their health care. I mean, unless all of your plumbing is removed, and what if you needed that to happen, and you can't find a doctor that would do that because they've left that state, because that state's laws are so locked down they can't operate anymore. And then what if you can't go over state lines to have an operation? You could just, women will end up dying, and I'm sure that some have already. So these are really important factors. Now, meanwhile, Neptune's here in Pisces, holding space with no aspects to it, holding space for everyone to get inside of considering everyone, to not allow other people to be victimized, whether or not you have a uterus, whether or not you're of childbearing age, whether or not you have any sisters or daughters or granddaughters. You need to care about everyone else. Otherwise, there's nothing. What's the point? I mean, what are you here for is the thing. I doubt you'd be listening to my channel, honestly. But that's what's on the table, especially with Pluto and Aquarius. It's about honoring all of humanity. That's where the power lies, the power to the people, not to the bigots, not to the people that think that they have a certain religion and it means this and this and this, not to the racists. The downside of Aquarius is racism. The downside of Aquarius is being pigeonholed and not being treated humanely and being controlled by people who think that they know a better idea or they have a better way of doing things. And that's on the opposite end of the direction we need to go. The highest levels of Aquarius, of course, is everyone being treated humanely and being honored for being unique, no matter however they might identify, gender-wise or non-gender, whatever. That's up to them. It's them and their bodies. So until we're all honoring things like that, we're going to be, battling or walking away from people with their opinion that they're trying to put onto us, and it's not fair, right? And especially to have laws enforced around that is unbelievably unfair. So let's see, what else? So that's Saturn square Venus, which will be out of orb in a couple of days. So this is a good opportunity. This is a tension field here, but it does bring in strength once we learn, everything that's on the table. And with the moon having crossed over Saturn, we will have learned a lot as to which groups, which organizations, and who's doing what. I mean, all of this, the news dumps last week, with Clarence Thomas and Trump's on the hot seat no matter where he goes. All of those things are because Pluto, all those things are happening because Pluto's squaring the nodes and the moon was approaching Saturn and illuminating governmental, people in governmental positions. So in our personal lives, we can rely on the wisdom of our past experiences to lead us in the right direction, and the opportunities are there. So it's a perfect time for people who are working on any transformation, self-transformation, any creative enterprise, especially with Saturn and Pisces. It's such a good sign for devoting yourself to. any type of a creative endeavor. It's also good for healing addictions of any kind. And most of all, being very compassionate and caring. There's a solid foundation building for compassionate care. So let's see, what else? Yeah, Venus trine Pluto, we have that for today. The moon is in a double trine. We don't have we lost our one leg of the grand water trine, from Saturn to Mars and the South Node, but we do have today, first thing in the morning, April 16th, we have the Pisces moon. So maybe there's some dream time guidance waking up. Pisces is very much connected to dreams. And with the trine going back to the South Node, again, there's that opportunity for the wisdom of the past. You might be having dreams about things that you're good at, or you're doing things with other people, and your part in it is something that's really easy for you, and it might not be for them. Or this could actually be the moon representing the public and women. It could be a coming together to protect, because Scorpio can be very protective, to protect other women. And then again, with the trine coming from the moon down to Mars, there's that movement forward, and Mars in Cancer is very, very protective. So seeing the big picture, feeling the big picture, and moving forward based on the wisdom of the past. So that is the weekly overview. Uranus is not making any aspect. You can see where the black dots are. That's where we don't have any exact aspects coming in. But they're still within orb. I mean, Jupiter close to Eris and the Sun in Aries opposing the South Node is still a big spotlight on how to move forward in courageous ways, and basically aligning with the past as your gauge of experience, and the Sun inching ever so closely to the North Node every day. It's coming 1 degree closer to the North Node. And what happens there is that there's a spotlight shining on the future, realizing that the things from the past don't have to equal the future, but we can use the past as a gauge to see where we're headed if we're not careful, right? It's like hindsight. This is a big hindsight aspect there. So, and this will be all week long. And as every day that goes by, we're getting closer and closer to the Sun conjunct the North Node, joined up with the North Node. So yeah, okay, let's keep going. So for Monday, we have the Moon is not making any aspects, but it is conjunct Neptune. So that is the only aspect, but there's no aspect from Neptune nor the Moon. So this could be, Sunday night could be a very good night for dream interpreter, paying attention to your dreams and then waking up in the morning and dream interpretation. It could also be a very dreamy kind of morning where, besides dream interpretation, you're waking up and feeling like, oh, I don't know if I want to do anything today. It would be a great morning to sleep in if you can. Or if you wake up early, if you're like me, and no matter how late you stay up, you still wake up at 5 a.m. usually. It's so weird. The last few days, it's been 5:50 a.m. every single day. It's like, wow, that's really weird. No matter what time I go to sleep. So anyway, if you're like me and that happens, even my youngest granddaughter's the same way, on spring break, and she still wakes up at 5 a.m. It's like, what? So anyway, what this could be for this morning at least is it is time to lay around and relax, excellent for meditation, excellent for visioning, working on a dream board, or waking up and working on your creative projects. It's a really good, if you're gifted to be able to write music lyrics, it's a good time for writing anything connected with music, any type of art, and maybe it has to do with making a really yummy breakfast, and that's your art. I mean, I have no judgments at all on what is artistic and what isn't, but it's a free morning is what it looks like to me, free and open. So make of it what you will. Now Tuesday, the moon has crossed over Neptune, and it's bumping up against, it's in Aries, but it's headed towards Chiron. So we might be feeling a little bit, into our deeper wounding, or connecting with, if you've worked hard and you've cleared out your deeper wounding, deepest woundings, deepest inner conflicts in life, which are always going to be a false belief. That deepest wounding is a false belief about yourself and life. If you've cleared that out, this could be a morning where you wake up and you're really connected to your gifts, and you move forward. There's some tension field around that, so it might involve helping someone else first thing in the morning, but there's strength there that comes, and that's especially true because the moon is sextile Venus here. So there's a caring exchange of information. There's an opportunity to support, to help, to bring in some harmony. It could be waking up and realizing, hey, because Mars in Cancer could be a lot of work around the house. You could wake up and go, you know what, I want to move some things around or change things. I need something in a different place. This isn't working. I just thought of a better way to make something work, in a better way. Or thought of something to make things work in a better way. And Chiron in Aries has been there quite some time. Now the moon in Aries can get you going. Because often, actually, pretty much once you work through your wounding, Chiron will always continue to, no matter what sign it is in your chart, it will continue to teach you things. But in Aries, this is something new. It's something where you're wanting to move forward, where you might have to be careful with impulsiveness, and especially because Aries and Cancer are both, cardinal energy, which moves. So there's movement. So be careful if it's something like you want to move furniture, be very careful. But if it's a new idea that's coming through, as far as something that might be a little daring compared to what you've done in the past, like suddenly you can find that place inside of you where you feel free to move forward in the way that you want to move forward. And then, Mars in Cancer goes, oh, wait, but what if? Well, maybe this is breaking through those what ifs. And what if you just went ahead and did it? Whatever it is. What if you started that new thing that you want to do? So the day supports that very, very well. And of course, you can see Mercury, all the other aspects that I spoke to already, supporting the entire week. Supporting, creative projects for the entire week. So let's go ahead and move to Wednesday. And Wednesday, the moon is still in Aries, of course, but look how close. It's only 2 degrees away from, less than 2 actually, away from Jupiter. So now there's big, bold movement and big, courageous movements that can happen. And the only thing to be cognizant of first thing this morning is that as the moon moves closer to Jupiter, it's going to feel more important to do what it is that you need to do. And if you don't do it, if you don't take that action because of these semi-squares here to Saturn and over here to Venus, if you don't take the action, it's going to just keep driving you nuts. So you might as well go for it. And that's actually all I have to say about Wednesday there with the moon. Now, Thursday, or I'm sorry, Wednesday later, Wednesday night, 9:13 p.m., this is our new moon total solar eclipse. And I did a separate video on that already. It took you through all the different houses. So as long as you know your chart, you can listen to that video and get the guidance for yourself there for moving forward in your life. But it's Wednesday, April 19th. It's a total solar eclipse, 4:20 in Australia. It'll be the 20th. It'll be tomorrow, Thursday, in Australia. And 9:13 p.m. if you're in Pacific time in America, North America. And 29 degrees Aries, that anaretic degree, wherever that is in your chart, will be affected. So again, like I said, just listen to the video that I already did. But that's the other thing going on. Okay, for Wednesday. And then Thursday, 1:14 in the morning, the sun moves into Taurus. You can see right here, 0 degrees Taurus, 0 minutes. And it's conjunct the moon, and the moon is conjunct the north node. So we have a stellium in Taurus right here. The sun is opposing the south node like it has been all week, and it's really connecting to this T-square in Pluto up at the top. So now, as of Thursday, April 20th, there's going to be a lot more emphasis in having what you want, because Taurus wants to have. It doesn't want to think about it. It doesn't want to put it off into the future. It wants security now, and it's faithful to itself. And we have principles that we're adhering to, and we want security. We want to have it now. The only trouble we could run into is getting stuck or feeling pushed, right? Pushed and rushed. Or if your focus is on having more toys just for the sake of having them, just for appearance values, it's like, nah, that's not going to work. For as far as happiness goes, more toys means more things to take care of, right? So anyway, with the sun moving into Taurus, we're going to be, there's more energy and more spotlight, more focus, more awareness, things coming to our attention to pursue our vocation, our life purpose. There's, it's a feminine sign, but it with the sun bringing in that energy there, it also brings in your authority, no matter how you identify. Yeah, I think that's about all to say about that. But I love how the moon is conjunct the sun as well, especially after that new moon solar eclipse. That's phenomenal. So there's a lot of power in the divine feminine and masculine together to help you move forward on your path, and balancing out the polar opposite of the south node, which has to do with your wisdom and how much work you've done to transform, and how strong you are in the realms of trusting yourself and going forward, even if there's a fear of betrayal. Don't betray yourself anymore is basically what works well with Scorpio. And that goes along with trusting yourself, of course. And then having more and more intimate conversations with those that you trust, but only the ones that you trust. You don't just tell anybody your, secrets. Privacy's one thing. And yeah, what else? There was something else I thought of, and I just left my head. Oh, I know what it was. I should have drawn a yellow line, and I would have remembered. Oppositions. Just remember this. Oppositions can turn into breakthroughs, so that you can have big breakthroughs. Okay, then Friday, Mercury goes retrograde. And there's been this build up to that. Okay. So Mercury goes retrograde. It only lasts about 3 weeks, somewhere in there. It happens every few months, not a big deal. But it's at 15 degrees Taurus. So wherever that lands in your chart will be the area of life where you're going to spend more than, because Mercury generally moves very quickly. It can make it sometimes through one sign within 2 weeks. But when it's retrograde, it's gonna take, more than a month. So we're gonna be sticking around this 15 degrees. I forgot to look and see what it's gonna retrograde back to. I'll do that next week. But for the time being, just know that we're around, that midway point of Taurus. So we're like halfway through the sign, and it's when Mercury stations retrograde, it kind of just sits there for a little bit, or it's actually our relationship with Earth. It's the planets don't even actually move backwards. It's what the Earth is doing in relationship to the outer planets. So, but this time, the moon is right there together with Mercury. So I feel like this has to do with an inward focus as to our safety, security, possessions, our own personal resources, your fluid money. You might be thinking more long-term, especially with Pluto squaring the nodes. And so back to when it happens, April 21st, Friday, April 21st, 1:35 a.m. Pacific. And wherever this lands in your chart, that will be that area of life where you are going to be going more inward in your thinking. Mercury, a retrograde planet, brings in an inward focus, which is good, actually. But this might be a time where you're going to get your finances together, your personal finances, and I'm thinking more along lines of how you can become more abundant and more secure in your own right, in your own. You might not be caring about sharing so much with in your resources that way. You might be thinking, you know what, I want this just for myself, just to know that you can do it, that you can have it. Like, what can you do all on your own that would be really creative and make your heart sing and bring money, right? For fun, just for fun, as a way to share and share your abundance. Because if we're bringing money in, we can donate, we can share, with the causes that are important to us. So those are things to think about. And with the moon joined up to start this off, there is that wanting, because the moon helps us to attach something. It helps us to connect. It helps us to respond. And it's very connected to nurturing what we intuitively sense, what we intuitively feel. And with Mercury retrograde in Taurus, with the moon setting it off, we're going to really be feeling, I think, needing, and that's a strong word, but needing to think along those lines of what would make me safer, what would make my family safer. So anyway, hopefully you're watching this video early and you've got this whole week to prepare for Friday when Mercury goes retrograde. And like I said, I'll figure out next week how far back it'll retrograde. But just remember, when Mercury retrogrades, it goes back to one's degree, a certain degree. And then when it moves forward, there's that retro shade time before it starts feeling like we're really out of that zone. So that 15-degree mark will be important. So let's go ahead and look at Saturday. Saturday, the moon's in Gemini. and trining Pluto, which is lovely. The Sun is conjunct the North Node, which is absolutely fantastic, because that Sun, remember, like I was saying in the beginning of the video, that the Sun was moving 1 degree, towards the North Node every day, and then also the nodes are moving backwards, but they didn't change a degree even yet, but they will. You can see we've got 4 degrees 0, so it won't be long before it'll be 3. Like 359, 358, that'll do that. And so we have, a tighter and tighter orb coming together here. So the Sun illuminates, the Sun focuses in like a spotlight, and it's going to bring something to our attention. Well, what could that be? Especially after the Sun crossing over Chiron, Jupiter, Eris. It's been picking up steam. It's focusing in on feminine issues and security issues and money issues, and focusing in on the future. The Sun will be the future. The North Node is absolutely the future. But it's also going to be, because it's opposing the South Node, like I was saying, there could be a breakthrough that comes because of all the focus on what wasn't working in the past, and now we're wanting to move forward. So there's that. And then with the Moon in Gemini trining Pluto, trining Pluto here, again, there's that nice flow of informational type of energy. Hold on, I need some water. A second. Oh, that's better. I still have to have the heater on here, darn it. I had hail last night, believe it or not. And I think a couple days before that too. Yeah, it's so weird. You look at it's so noisy, and then you look outside, and it looks like a bunch of little styrofoam balls bouncing. It's like, what? Crazy. So anyhow, the Moon in Gemini trining Pluto brings in some powerful information, powerful learning, powerful ways to think outside the box if you're aligned with the light. And it might be a news breakthrough. Now, here's another thought that I didn't think of before. Actually, let me highlight this. With Mercury in Taurus, especially retrograde, notice how it's only 3 degrees away from Uranus. There's some divine mind connection there. Now Mercury's going to go this way and Uranus is still going that way. But for a little bit of time, for a couple days or more, we have this tight conjunction here, which is also connected over to the sextile to Mars. Yeah. Even when Mercury goes back 1 degree, it's still going to be an exact or a very tight connection to Mars there. So I just had a hit on news, because Mercury rules news dumps coming out. Shocking news dumps about people who've been greedy with their money, because Taurus on the dark side can be very, very greedy, right? Because it's all about money and personal finance. So we could have some more news dumps. There could be other Supreme Court justices that were in on the Harlan Crow, perks, besides Clarence Thomas. That wouldn't surprise me at all, right? There's 6 of them that are problematic on the bench, so they've been there forever. They sit there until they die. That needs to change. But anyway, for you guys personally, this could be a really good time for some new ideas, because Uranus will bring in new ideas to make money, to secure your financial future, and to create more security because of this sextile to, there's opportunities with the sextile to Mars in Cancer, which also wants security. And we'll work hard to get it. I actually love Taurus energy because it will sit there and hold space and not give up. There's a lot of tenacity between Taurus and Scorpio. But then Cancer will always be thinking of how to grow, right? So that's a nice, a way to bring in stability and growth with Taurus and Cancer. Now, the other, like I was saying, the Pluto trining the moon, I'm feeling news dumps in there. But in your own life, personally, again, just be thinking of the opportunity here. There is to be thinking of ways to empower your flow. And that would be, I'm thinking, connecting with your friends and kindred spirits there. So, excellent Saturday. The moon has a quincunx to the south node. So there might be some, and especially as the moon moves forward, every hour, this will be a little bit tighter of an orb. It's close already, but anyway, we only go between 0 and 3.5 degree orbs with the quincunxes anyway. So the south node brings in the wisdom of the past and the things that you're changing, that you're transforming, things you're going through the process of regeneration. And it's because you're learning new things and new ways that you're going to be making these adjustments. So I think Saturday could be a good day of integration, new awarenesses and integration, and more powerful opportunities. And still, just remember with this Saturn, and this is all week, and I'll figure out later, because I know it's going to go into next week as well. I can tell by the orbs here. But notice how Saturn's at 4 degrees, the north node's at 4 degrees, south node's at 4 degrees. This is an aspect to the architect, and it builds. And this is your spiritual base that you can, set in stone to for the rest of your life if you want, right? That's Saturn. We build things in Saturn. We create structures and foundations in Saturn with the planet Saturn. Saturn and Jupiter are the builders of the zodiac. Jupiter opens things up, helps to expand, but then Saturn comes in and lays the foundation, basically, if the opening was healthy and if it works. If it's not, you can still build a foundation, but you know what foundations built on sand are like, or a house of cards, right? We know these people, and it could take a whole lifetime for things to fall apart for them, but eventually it does, and we are watching that. Meanwhile, they're going to play victim and or act like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, well, okay, now that I know it, I won't do it anymore. Yeah, nice try. So anyway, I think I'm done. And let me get this uploaded and welcome your questions or comments. And most of all, sending you a big, big hug and tons of love. Okay, bye.